Selling stuff is good. We get an adrenaline buzz, don't we, when a customer says, yes, I'd like to buy. And since sales are the lifeblood of the business, you might think that getting a purchase order from a customer who wants to buy from you is always great news. But if you don't have your commercial processes sorted out, customer purchase orders can be ticking time bombs, costing your business money every day of the week. So we'll look at how you can find out whether your business is at risk in a couple of minutes. But first of all, what are the 3 reasons a customer purchase order can be hazardous to business health? Well, the 3 main sources of purchase order pain are, number 1, poor payment terms. Your customer's purchase terms will usually specify payment terms of 60 days or more. Number 2, scary indemnities. Most customer terms expect the supplier to take all of the liability if anything goes wrong in connection with the products or services they're supplying. And number 3 is no protection for your intellectual property or for the goods that you're supplying. Customer terms don't usually include anything that's going to protect the supplier, their IPR, or enable you as the supplier to recover your goods if the customer doesn't pay. Sounds scary? But how do you know if your business even needs to worry about this stuff? Well, first question, does your business receive purchase orders from its customers? If the answer is yes, there's a good chance you're at risk. Second question, do you make sure that all of your customers sign up to your terms and conditions before they give you a purchase order? If you don't, you're definitely at risk. But what if you do? What if your customers always sign up to your T's and C's first and just issue purchase orders to confirm quantities and enable your invoices to get processed properly, because you need to be able to reference a purchase order number or whatever? Well, provided your terms expressly exclude any terms in the purchase order that might be in addition to or at odds with the ones in your agreement, then you are probably home clear. Now, I say probably because figuring out which terms apply in each case can be tricky depending on the precise facts of the case. What if you send out your T's and C's with your quote, the customer verbally accepts them, and then sends you a standard PO? You're at risk. What about if you send out your quote with your T's and C's, they send back their PO referring to their terms and conditions, and you reply with an order acknowledgement that refers to your T's and C's? Well, you're still at risk. So, fair enough, ask why is it that even if you've got beautiful terms and conditions for your business and you diligently send them out with every quote and you have them on your website and maybe even send them out with an order acknowledgement every time, you're still at risk of the 3 main sources of PO pain? Well, it's all down to how contracts are formed. Under English law, a contract is made when there's been an offer, like you offering to sell your stuff for a particular price, subject to your terms, either on your website or in your proposal. Then there has to be acceptance of that offer. So if your customer's PO said, we wish to buy the stuff set out in our supplier's proposal on the supplier's terms as attached to that proposal, that would be a clear acceptance of your offer. But in my experience over the last 20 years or so, that almost never happens. Instead, customers send their PO using their purchase order system. And their PO says in small print at the bottom, this purchase order is subject to customers' terms and conditions of purchase, available at www.brokenlink.com. They never work, do they? So what they're doing when they send you a purchase order is they're making a counteroffer. Rather than saying, I accept the offer you've made in your beautiful proposal to sell me your stuff for this price on your terms, they're saying, I would like to buy the stuff you've described in your proposal for this price, but on our terms, not yours. So if you've made an offer with your proposal and they've made a counter offer with their PO, how does the contract actually get made? When does acceptance of the offer happen? In most businesses, the contract is made when either the customer or the supplier starts acting as though a contract is made, most often when the seller starts delivering stuff. So if you receive a customer PO and then ship your goods to them, you'll be considered to have accepted their counter offer. That's to say, you'll be considered to have accepted their offer to buy your stuff at your price, but on their terms. And the chances are that their terms will have all three of the main sources of PO pain that we talked about before. What if you send an order acknowledgement when you receive a PO before you deliver? One that says you're accepting their PO subject to your T's and C's. In theory, your order acknowledgement could be considered to put your T's and C's back on top of the pile in the battle of the forms. The battle of the forms is what the lawyers call this bun fight about whose terms apply when a contract's made. As a rough rule of thumb, the battle of the forms can be described as she who lobs last wins. So the last set of terms and conditions thrown over the wall before the contract is made are the ones that will apply. The trouble is, it's often really hard to figure out which set of terms were the last to be sent before the contract is made. There is loads of case law trying to answer this question under different circumstances. In one case, 3 different courts all came to different conclusions based on the same set of facts. In another, a supplier, realising that it had lost the battle of the forms thanks to its customer's purchase order, brought a claim under its customer's terms and conditions, only for the customer to argue successfully that its terms didn't apply because they were full of errors and they hadn't been signed. The truth is, unless you have a single signed set of terms that's still valid and in effect at the time you receive your customer's purchase order, you are at risk of suffering from the 3 most common purchase order pains. So just to remind ourselves, those were: number 1, poor payment terms. Your customer's purchasing terms will often specify payment terms of 60 days or more. Number 2, scary indemnities. Most customer purchasing terms expect the supplier to take all the liability if anything goes wrong in connection with the products or services they're supplying. And number 3, no protection for your IP or the goods you're supplying. Customer terms don't usually include anything to protect your intellectual property rights or to enable you to recover your goods if they don't pay. So if you do find yourself selling stuff under customer terms, whenever you start chasing outstanding debts, you'll be told, "Oh, but it's not overdue yet. Our standard payment terms are 60 days, 90 days, 60 days end of month," or whatever. And if something did go wrong with your product or service, you wouldn't be able to rely on the limit of liability in your terms to manage your risk. Instead, you're likely to be on the hook to pay for whatever loss or damage the customer might have suffered as a result. And worse still, your insurance might not even cover the claim if your insurers find out about the indemnity. And what about your intellectual property and your goods? If you're selling software, design work, graphics, or content of some kind, you can pretty much guarantee that your customer will acquire full ownership of the copyright and any other rights as soon as they receive your stuff. While that might not sound bad, what it means in practice is that if your customer owns that intellectual property, you're not allowed to use it in your business or for any other clients. Ouch, that does sound bad. So how can you avoid these and other sources of PO pain? It's easy. Get your commercial processes sorted out. Make sure everyone in the business understands the whole thing about offer and acceptance so that nobody's tempted to shift stuff on the basis of a simple purchase order. Have a process for accepting orders that ensures your terms are always on top of the heap in the battle of the forms. So how are your current processes? What kind of problems are you currently facing in this area? Leave a comment below or contact me via the website if you're having issues. We'll address the most common problems in a future video. Thanks again for watching. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future content that could help you smooth out your business relationships. Bye for now.